What's up, everybody? So we're looking at 3.3 today, solve multi-step equations. All right, so we're still continuing our lesson on equations. We're just adding more and more steps, and I guess I should add a little less equations. But before we get into that, I want you guys to try out a couple warm-up problems dealing with the two-step equation stuff we were learning in the last lesson. So go ahead, take a minute, try these out real quick. Okay, so yeah, two-step equations. You guys remember the big thing from the last lesson was when we go to solve, we want to deal with addition or subtraction first. So on number one, 5's being divided. We'll eventually deal with that. We got to deal with this plus 13 by subtracting it from both sides. Okay, so it looks like we got a 4 on the left. Looks like on the right, we got that W over 5. Okay. Now we can get rid of that 5. It's being divided, so we'll do the opposite, and we'll multiply, and we need to do it to both sides. Okay, so over here, it looks like we're getting a 20, and it equals W. Let's flip-flop it to get our variable on the left, so let's write it as W equals 20. Okay, just remember, we can always check. If we plug 20 in here, 20 divided by 5 is 4 plus 13, 17. Yeah. Okay. Taking a look at number 2 here, we have a 12 and we have this minus sign. Okay, remember this is technically a -1 that's being multiplied by q. We'll eventually deal with that. We got to deal with this positive 12 first, and we will do that by doing the opposite, subtracting. Okay, so it looks like we have a negative q on the left. On the right, 11 minus 12 and -1. And if you guys remember, there's a little shortcut. If we want to change the symbols on the left-hand side, we can, as long as we change all of the symbols on the right-hand side. Okay, so q equals 1. Okay, so yeah, a little warm-up. We're going to be using these same skills today. Our problems are just going to be a little bit longer. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this out. Go ahead and get the title on your notes at the top. Go ahead and copy this first equation here and the stuff on the right, and we'll try this out. Okay, so taking a look at this problem, here's what I noticed. Multiple variables. Okay, before we can do anything, we need to do what it's saying on the right, simplify one or both sides of the equation. Okay, and when I say simplify, that means combining like terms, doing everything we can before we actually start to solve for x and get rid of numbers. Okay, and yeah, I noticed that we have these like terms here. We can combine those, right? So let's go ahead and do it. So 8x minus a 3x gives me a 5x. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring down that minus 10 equals 20. And now if you notice, two-step equation, just like yesterday. So we'll add 10 to both sides. And it looks like we're getting 5x equals 30. And now we'll divide both sides by 5. By the way, I'm just going to do it in my head. If you're able to do some of this stuff in your head, I'm okay with it, but show me the steps. All right, so it looks like dividing by 5 goes into 36 times. Okay, so yeah, we're going to move through this kind of quick. Feel free to pause as we go through, but let's move on. Okay, take a look at this second example. Go ahead and copy it. All right, so I notice again, we have some like terms. They're not side by side this time, but that's fine. We have a 5a and a minus 3a. Let's go ahead and combine those. 5a minus 3a gives us a 2a, right? Then bringing down this positive 3, bringing down this minus 7. Okay, now two-step equation. Let's go ahead and deal with addition or subtraction first. Okay. 2a equals, it looks like combining those negatives gives me a bigger negative, right? Negative 10. And now I can get rid of this 2. It's being multiplied, so we're dividing. All right, so this lesson feels a little redundant. That's why I'm kind of going through quick. So it's just baby steps. That's kind of what this book does. So we're taking steps to do more and more difficult problems. All right. So I'm going to have you guys go ahead and try one of these on your own. Go ahead and copy this and try it out. All right. So a lot like the last problem, variables, not variables, but like terms, we have them. We can do it. This math here, 9d minus 2d gives us 7d. Right. This plus 4, let's bring it down. Right. Over on the right, 32. Now, two-step equation, deal with addition or subtraction first, opposite operation, right? So we got a 7D equals 28. And last thing, D's being, or 7's being multiplied, so we will divide. And it looks like these are nice and clean problems, right? These don't always divide evenly. Sometimes we'll get a decimal or, leave it as a fraction, but it does divide. So we're getting D equals 4. Okay, so from here, it just kind of builds a little bit more. And this is saying, solve using the distributive property. So take a second and copy this. We'll do this example together. Okay, so there's more and more things in front of us, right? Really, the only difficult part is, where do we start on these problems? Just a reminder, technically, when we're solving, we're doing PEMDAS backwards. Okay, but here's the thing. Right now, we are not solving. Right now, we are simplifying. Okay, so we're kind of doing, our simplification in the order of PEMDAS. First thing we're looking for is parentheses, can't do anything. Exponents, there are none. Multiplication, division, yeah, we have some multiplication. We have some distribution we can do here. All right, so whenever you see distribution, that's the first thing you'll normally do when you're simplifying your equation before you start solving. Okay, so bringing down that 7x, distribute the 2, we got a 2 times x, which is a positive 2x. 2 times 6, positive 12, equals 39. Okay, and now we're kind of back to where the other problems were. We have some like terms here. 7x plus 2x gives me a 9x. Bring down everything else. Okay, now we can start solving here, getting rid of the addition or subtraction, which, by the way, I mentioned doing the PEMDAS backwards. That's when you're solving. We're to the point where there's no other simplification we can do. We're just left with, okay, now we're solving for x, and that's when we would do PEMDAS backwards, just to kind of go back to my comment. Okay, so subtracting 12, we have 9x equals, looks like we're getting a 27. And dividing 9 into it, I'm just going to do this in my head. 9 goes into 27 3 times, so x equals 3. Okay. All right, let's try one more together before I give you guys a practice problem. So go ahead, copy this one, same directions. You don't need that again. Okay, so a lot going on again, but I notice we have some distribution. Okay, so that's where my focus is. I'm going to take this minus 5. I'm going to distribute it into the parentheses. Okay, everything else just bring down. So minus 3 comes down, 12y, bring it down. Okay, negative 5 times 2y, negative 10y. Negative 5 times negative 7 equals a positive 35. Okay, and you can kind of see a lot of the stuff we've been learning, this year, the multiplication rules and whatnot. They're very simple, but now we're combining them all together. So remembering all of these little rules it's kind of why we nailed down those fundamentals and at the beginning of the year. Okay, so yeah, we got some like terms. So I always work left to right, or at least normally I do. So I'm going to bring down the 3. 12y minus 10y gives me a 2y. And then I have this plus 35. Okay, now I can solve for y. Remember, our variable's on the right-hand side this time. We only care about these numbers. This minus 3, we don't care about it. It's already on the other side. Okay, so let's deal with this plus 35 by subtracting it, both sides. All right, so over here, combining the negatives, I get a bigger negative, looks like negative 38. Right, over here, 2y, bring it down, 35s are gone. Last thing, now I can solve for y, get rid of the 2 by dividing. Negative 38 divided by 2, looks like we're getting negative 19. Okay, last thing, variables on the right. Let's flip-flop it. Let's write it as y equals negative 19. Okay, another thing I want to point out, if you're ever kind of sketchy on doing some of this arithmetic, like if you didn't know negative 38 divided by 2, feel free to use the calculator. There's no shame in it, but start to kind of memorize this simple stuff that we're doing. Okay, it'll help you in your future. All right, so let's have you guys go ahead and try out one of these on your own, and then we will try it together. Go ahead. Alrighty. So it looks like we have some distribution, right? That's where my eye is, kind of drawn to. I know I need to deal with that first. So distribute that positive 3 into the parentheses. So I'm going to bring down the 2y. 3 times y is a positive 3y. Positive 3 times positive 4, positive 12 equals 27. Okay, got some like terms, so let's go ahead and combine them. 2y and a 3y gives me a 5y. Bring everything else down. Okay, now we're to the point where we cannot simplify anymore. There's nothing else we can do here. So we know we're at the point where we can solve, right? So dealing with this addition, getting rid of it by doing the opposite operation. We've got a 5y equals 15, right? And again, if you want to do some of this in your head, I know I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and I know 5 goes into 15 3 times. All right, so yeah, another fairly quick one here, guys. Sorry, let me scroll back down. We're doing, the basics, and we're starting to build on top of these equations. They're getting more and more elaborate. So that's why having those fundamentals nailed down was a good thing to do. So yeah, hopefully you're feeling good on this, and I'll see you guys in class.